Understanding concept of communication, you really have to understand how it works on all levels. It volumes in you and so many line communication, triangulation, high set location, position, and track lines. All line communication is communication. Now we understand that. The one thing you really have to get into form of is how to communicate to everything else. Let me say it again. How to communicate to everything around you. Okay. So if you can bounce things inside of you first, you bounce you inside in all electrical setting because you're connected to your 12 lines and everything to 114 position locations. You guys are coming into 76. That's a throat. It's your throat, right? Okay. So it's connected all line interference. Understand how to gargle, understand the adaptation, understand the width, understand the strength, understand the command, understand the force, understand the identification, understand the voice, how it comes into levels. It's a voice. It's a recognition of a voice. Freedom of speech, to speak through the throat. The connect line center line interference location is the center position. Okay. Panels of communication, 2 line settings, right? Chronicle line setting rotations, right? All right. So this is a high temperature. This comes in high voice, right? So that's a rhythm line. That's a strike signal location. It's understanding all its valve calculation. Okay, it vectors its cross to its flux capacitor. Downshift line calculations, right? Center its line to the center position locations to your chin. Operation to set location to your face structure. Line calculates its modify to its eye receptor to open ears. So letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols are already placed in your throat line that's connected to your interference location. Opens up all panels locations of shield plates. 2 shield plates, 2 panels, line calculation, crisscross line setting. Understanding recognition is trying to understand how to use all formation locations of all accountability. Your direct line signal is really understand how to use your voice of 0 to 12 set locations. Right? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So change your rhythm pattern, voice recognition, line calculation of flux capacitor. Right? Up, down, up, down. Okay? Really understand that. Side to side, up, down, circle. If you ever see Doctor Strange, he tries to understand for the very first time how to open up a portal. Right? You can't just do this. You got to use your voice. Your voice is recognized into your finger point line connection system. Now that's 8 channels into 2 set line connections. You put the triangular communication line interference into application position, open signal, move it line rotations, find a comfortability line rotation surface, set communication line settings, high track line communication system, waiting on signal, 1, 2, 3, give it a line communication, 60,000 line signatures, position the track line, you let it go. So when you let it go, it travels, right? You want it to come back, right? One goes forward, one goes back. One goes forward, one goes back. You have to learn how to use your voice. And every time you're using your voice, you're changing your zeros and ones and calculations to your inventory. Setting communications at all levels. Always place the connection high systems of old to new. And then you change it. So if you ever done inventory at a grocery store, it's always exceptionally understanding to always put things in front, old, new in the back, right? Use those first, right? That's what it's all about. Is they're trying to replacing the old with the new and set location high system. Of course, you read the label. It's the location that's fine. The energy line signature comes out. And it goes back in place. So really understand how to use the mind of collaboration location, the things that come out. When they come out through a video graph, and then you see it. So it's all calculated, modified. It's floating, right? It's understanding your set location keyboard, flash drive, control, escape, triangle communication line interference, number sequence pattern. So if you take it out and look at it at the wall, you can actually see the keyboard in the mind. You can see the graph. You can see the illumination. It's very powerful. So it's all in memory. Okay. Having that memory of everything that you see is inside through adaptation. All right. All right. So I see the keyboards, flash drive memory, number sequence locations, foundation graph lines, navigations at the top locations, center point position locations, all levels alphabetical line calculation system, A, B, C line, D line interference, space bar position location, control, alt, shift, and position of escape. It's all in your memory. So getting that in that communication system identifies everything. Coming to your voice line, right? So putting you guys in your theta set lines and operation to surface location in one setting. Now this is one barometer, one sector in position of pi to all calculations. Calculus over pi in direction of time sequence puts a higher direct location of signals. All right. Setting signals and set location. Okay, so we channel operation line setting. All right, so this is how we set locations. So everything you're doing through the avatar is reconstructing higher levels of design. Let's start with the 369 line. Let's start with basic locations of 12. Start with that line connections, all right? So 3 in measure. Okay, so there's a triangulation set line, right? Now 9 line connections is an energy wash. 9 equals lines of 4, 4 lines of 6, into half pipe and position location of moon setting. Okay, so it's really understand what is the 4 doing to line position locations of 6? What is 6 line communication of 12? Why is 12 off 6? What happened to 3? Why is 3 in triangulation? All through communication, right? Recognize a 3. 3 is line communication of flux capacitor, trying to understand its position. 6 is line calculation system, trying to understand its all calculation as travel. 12 in line communication, trying to understand all country line center location of its Earth position. Calculations at all levels. The moon is trying to understand its operation, use set locations. And 4 is trying to understand the solar generation lights in Fibonacci sequence and set location. Okay. So you really, really have to understand how to communicate with your numbers. Okay. It's having a conversations with yourself inside. So to understand that set connection high system, I'm going to put you guys in line communication. Take the team, but turn them into 4. All right. So you guys are now 4. You feel like a 4. Your body feels like a 4. The conscious line setting is a 4. Your 4 position locations and all calculation line setting is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So that's 4 equals lines of 5 in set locations, high position locations of pi in set location of square root set location. That's how you become a 4 in set line connections. You guys just morphed into 4, right? You feel like 4. You feel like a 4, right? So it's amazing how you do it through pi. Okay, into a 5 setting. 5 setting is its position locations when it comes into higher calculations online to its Merkabah set location setting. Done by equation. So everything is travel. Now, we have to understand how to use the throat setting. Throat is extremely powerful because it's line calculation of 6. So let's go through 0 line. 1, 2, 3, 4. Put 5 off setting. All right. Now, the reason why I put in 5 off setting is because 6 is not a correlation system of balance yet. Changing the throat, adjusting line calculating line interference is changing the line centers of 6 zeros and position locations. So 3 in set lines in past and 3 set lines in future location. Now the direction of time sequence, take the past line and the future line into the center operation. All right. So this becomes power of recognition to all calculations of form and set line calculations, into high calculations into a T-line setting, and set line communications to its flux capacitor. Direction of time sequence, 0 line of operation, 0 scope line, 0 operation of center line, and 0 operation of boson calculation set line position. Now this recognizes its communication. So past line is now the center line. It opens up its line communication of its theta in a rotation surface in the opposite direction location setting. Now, center calculation system comes into future adaptation, future ecolocation avatar set. Direction of time sequence. We take the avatar into the center line of communication of travel. Center lines its outline setting, sets another 6 line position locations into a pattern. That pattern opens up a black hole. Black hole opens up a circle line calculation system into 6 line channels of operation line setting in high surface. Direction of time sequence, line its upline swing, its that location of north line rotation. Setting calculation line interference puts 3 in center, 4 operation, and you take the 5 and center communication. So that's 5 positions, all levels of 3 into 4 set location. 4 lines and set lines of 3, 3 line position location of 7, 7 line conditions of 5, 5 set line conditions of 12, DNA set line calculation setting. Putting line communications into line settings, a location of 7, 7 position locations at 6, 7 lines of 6, and 6 line communication into another dimensional line rotation surface inside locations. Done by equation. All right. Fixed anomalies of zero line calculation line rotation. Truly understand how this offsets lines of communication. Your throat line, okay, to the obstacle location setting. Right, there's your throat, right? Travel communication of team line. There's line team line and position locations into CPU. All right, CPU team. All right, travel communication center, center communication, center communication. All right, so you're going down the clustrum. Center communication, right? Now, line connecting is to understand how to use the energy graph lines. So now you get alpha line rotations and position locations. These are your shoulders and set location line setting. Okay, direction of time sequence. Now, in that time sequence, we come into I provision location setting. See the intelligence? Now, setting calculation line in rotation is to understand how to see phase direction of time sequence. Now, time sequence location is a cluster line off interference. That off interference puts position location of computer adaptation surface that opens all channels of operation location of stream setting. High calculation modify high setting line position locations opens up panels of operation surface to a black hole calculation. Now, that black hole sets line into position locations in 3 set line connections to the grounds. Okay? Direction of time sequence, changing line communications, energy graph, laser graph, scan line setting, inside locations. 1, 2, 3, 4. Setting communication, right? Scanning lines into graph line rotation and grid settings. Okay, so what that does, it opens up its signals. Now we open the line, setting line in position. We take the 3 lines of zeros, 3 sets line calculations, another 0 line position, 3 set line into center calculations. Center communication is all levels. You bracket the 3, bracket the 3, you bracket the 3, set location setting, indirect line setting, rotation surface. Now, getting into holographic line setting, the scans line connection high system is the body frame, bioframe, and the ultra frame. Okay, so that's how you come into 3 line settings, 3 rotations, and 3 set lines of lights. 0, 0, 0 in line communication in line setting, and 0, 0, 0 in future adaptation to your avatar of its intelligent location. Okay, now center calculation line interference is all about direction location of 0 lines. So we take the 0 line and line the centers of 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 line communication. That's where you guys are, right? And the 6 line center lines its communication. So we take the line position locations. So that's 1, 2, 3. Center communication at 3 levels. 1, 2, 3, 4. Set lines of communication at 7. We take the 7 and 76 in set location. Your throat pattern communication. Down by equation, right? So your throat lines are at 76 now. Now the direction of time sequence has to understand the energetic graph line setting. This rotates its surface locations all levels. This word comes into the medical volatile line rotation interference into neurons. Neuron line interference applications into synopsis line calculations of graph lines. Graph line calculations into all calculations into 2 position of square lines, into square root in set locations, high sending of channels in set location position, track line. All right. So we take the track line, we open up the round communication to its setting. All right. Now, in a set line communication system, we cross the line centers of triangulation line interference, geometric pattern, travels line in the line connection levels of geotherium. So geo calculations is set lines into geographical line connections. So what we're doing is we're setting the throat line communication and geographic line setting location of 0 line settings, direction of time sequence, 0, in position of 0, and operation. Setting calculation of lines, shifting communication set lines. See the intelligence? Direction of time sequence is all levels of travel calculation setting and crisscross location setting and invariance into levels at ground line rotation. There's the intelligence, done by equation, right? So I set up geotherems and line connection in throat setting locations into high setting. All right, so the neurons and set lines in all calculation systems spot channels, its rotation surface. Now setting position location of track lines, let's go through colors and patterns. First line calculation, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, 41, 35, 36, 39, 40, 41, 42, 43, 45, 46, 47, 48, 49, 50, 51, 52, 54, 55, 56, 57, 58, 59, 60, 61, 62, 64, 65, 67, 68, 69, 70, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76. All done through equation. It's all set up. Neurons are all set at line connection by system in square root of pi direction of time sequence, location, position. All through geographic line setting and geotheory into geometric location settings and geographic location setting. Done by equation. All right, recognition of patterns, high signals, and high setting. We understand how to set pattern communication. The pattern communication comes in all ways and forms. Understand the direction of time sequence. So let's say we get in communication line interference of 76 lines, because you guys are now in 38 set locations. That's 30 bracket line calculation system. Fibonacci line swirl into a double helix and rotation surface in set locations. Now the channel line interference comes one way and crosses a signal line communication. Now, setting line communication comes into this lines to a hub in set locations. Generation lines scans position location into the center communication. All right, now it's complicated. Now, rotation surface sets a line position locations on barometer and another calculation string. It recognizes its position location high setting. Okay. Now, getting into calculation line interference, we take the 7 line and the 6 line and position location of 38 track lines into a flux capacitor and center position locations and all set line calculation. Now, the direction line calculation line interference comes into a cloud line setting into all calculation system indirect signals. Setting direct signal location comes into a Hubble. A Hubble line position location comes into orbits of channels of dimensional line rotation surface in set locations. High channels its line setting in stream position. Direction of time sequence lines of pi. Solar screens and set line calculation setting is set division. Done by equation. All right. So geo line settings and the geographic line communication setting. It's very powerful when you see the synopsis line calculation setting, how it's set up location of 76 to 38 line rotation. Okay. So getting in line interference, we set up an infinity circle, setting communication to all levels of new lines of new calculation setting and position. See the infinity 8? All right. So we surface this line calculation line position. Opens up a new panel of magnetic highway information setting. See the intelligence? Now, I'm showing you because you're always in that set line. You're always in that structure of its drawing. But that drawing is actually you in position of the mind of travel. So every time you are in position, you have to see the face recognition location of travel settings. You see yourself in everything that you do in provision to your formulas of equation. Okay? So getting in signals. Let's say we are to track location. All right. How's everybody doing? Nikki, how's it going? Sam, Heather, Chris, great to see everybody. Okay. Trinity. All right, let's see here. Getting line signals and high set locations. Releasing sonar, dropping stabilizations to area. Yeah. So when you get positioned in your throat line, it puts an allocated line setting of a stream setting. It opens all position locations to 0 line rotations. So we got a 0 graph line rotations and a 4. Okay, setting communications, setting and positions. So 3 waving line settings and rotation surface. Gets complicated. And then you get a Fibonacci line swirl and set locations in the opposite direction. Okay, so that travels its line calculation in the same direction locations. Now this channels its line setting, setting communication, setting communication, setting communication in the same direction. All right. So we take the lines of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 locations. Channels lines of 6 equals line conditions into positive over negative into 7 location. We take the 7 line, it's center line, and we take the 6 line into center line communication, open another panel, rotations to a downshift cross sign stream. Now, this sets a line communications to a high setting of pi recognition. Pi recognition line calculation system. This puts position locations into the sun, into the moon. It's at the top. Sending direct line signals right to center opens up all observation cyclones and high calculation setting and rotation surface and set location setting. Okay? Gets complicated. So in line calculation, here's your Earth over here. All right? Version of timelines, inline connection high setting, setting direct signals and set locations. All right? The Earth is there, right? So throw pattern calculation now in 7, and 6, and set position of center. See it crossed over, vortex location of stream. So the Earth line crosses this line setting in set locations. Here's a top line signal. So the Earth becomes its north line of streamline in set locations. Triangulation of 3 sets, 2 and 3 set location. See? Done by equation. Hoo-ah, right? So I use a form line triangle. Okay, a form line triangle sets position, location, high setting. The recognition of timeline is all levels, and this is where it comes into time switch. Right? Understanding the time switch now. Time switch. Okay, so set line communication switch. You have to add the formula line into a flux capacitor and set locations. Right? So this comes into line calculation, travel calculation team, in set location. Center calculations into all setting, systematic line stream and set location to another opposite system locations of higher travels in position location of high setting. All right, recognition of all graphs in 2 set location, recognition of timelines of 3 set location in high position. Now that calculation comes into a UFO line rotation, scans position in center line of center location. Okay, this opens up another line of rotation surface of a black hole in set location. Right? Complicated stuff, right? Now, once you stand the high calculations to its binaries and line communications comes into a spinel. Spinel line rotations comes into another circle line rotation surface and a ground line rotation. Center calculation in position location, right? Centers its line signals into a triangulation that puts one spot line rotation into its interface. Calculation modification line interference, it comes into line calculation of 3 and set position location into 6, into 7, into 8, into 9, into 10. Now 10 lines levels its positions to levels and 12 line communication into your center calculation stream and set locations. All right, so you set up the panels of the matrix streamline. Calculations. So you take line communication of 3 and center lines of 7, you take the 6 into 7, you take the 7 into 7, you take the 8 into 7, you take the 9 into 7, you take the 10 into 7, and 11 into 7, and 12 into set location. Travel recognition of time sequence, guys. All right. So this measures its counts and scales lines. Now the 0 line communication opens up all setting. Now in that line rotation, you come into another black hole. Okay, and set location. All right, so once you understand that panels, it high derives its lines. The arrival sets line condition high setting. So sets up an alpha line road and set calculation to graph line stream and set position locations. Now this channels its line calculations. Energize lines and earth and set locations, high travels and high position. Now, when it travels, it center lines its communication of downshift cross lines of center operation. Now, this opens up signals in position locations into another panel of your T reception of its console. Console calculation line interference travels calculation of zero line and a Fibonacci swirl in set location system in direct signals, setting direct signals into panel operation of center operation. Correlation line interference comes line calculation system to omega waves and calculation stream. Time sequence line interference crisscross location 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, and then you go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Right, 7 lines in 6th position, done by equation. All right. So there's all ways of coming into correlation lines of stands. Now, stand line communication. So I get 76 in the center in set location of 3 set location. Right. Center lines of another black hole in set locations. Now, you take the 7 line, you take the 6 line, and you got a communication to a fluctuation line setting. It rotates its surface location to its system. Question of time sequence. You have the Earth in set location, always in now, in that line calculation, always facing north in set location of travel. Sending communication at 12 line setting in direction of time sequence. Okay, it's extremely powerful what's going on. Okay, so the Earth line comes into 6, the Moon line crosses string, and the Sun comes in position location, and the 6 opens up another cyclone, high calculation to its moon set, in line calculation string, done by equation. All right. So we all have to understand how our throat works and how it travels to the mind line setting. It's all calculated and modified, Gypsy. So yes, it's exactly what it is, Heather. Synopsis graph patterns recorded. So when you record something in set lines of communication, you have to really recognize all calculations. And again, we're setting up all calculations to black holes. Black hole calculations, lines of graph lines, string lines, and locations of 42 line strings. 3 set line calculations. This is where it comes into all calculation line interference. You got 0 lines into 1. Okay, and 0, 0, 0, 1. Okay, 1, 1, 0. So all calculation throat is only zeros and ones. It doesn't go into 2 yet because you don't understand the panels. You don't understand your perimeters in position. You don't understand your foundation graph lines. You don't understand your block centers. So it stays in line calculation system in position of track lines. Okay, this is how it comes into your throat setting location. Cell's modification to its neurons has a septal line valve that sets the line position location of track lines. Its set locations all setting. This rotates its surface location position of track lines. Setting direct signals is all in position of travel in the vortex location of streams. All right. Now, really understand how to get into all calculations to 0 line rotation. So every time you talk, the connections all levels. This is what happens. See how it communicates? So when I say something, see, that's one line, right? Everything comes into form communication setting. See? So what's happening, it's vortexing and it's traveling through set locations to its space line, okay, to its set location. So each time you crisscross line setting, you go through cross line position location, higher cell lines of graphs. This is all connected to your throat. Now, the rotation surface has to really understand how to use the zeros and ones into an energetic graph line screen. This opens all calculations to your zeros and ones. You don't plat it to 2, 3, 4, 5, or anything through 12 because you don't understand the algorithm location of your throat pattern. Until you understand the voice recognition, until you understand the pattern recognition, until you understand the ground operation, then you can get into the inventory location of your algorithms. You're creating line calculations of letters, numbers, and safe to your throats. But right now, you guys are in calculations of zeros and ones only, because that's where your body is in levitation setting. Direction of time sequence is all calculated and modify how you color in the set line communications at levels. Now, this opens up signals and set locations. This channel position location. All right. So let's go into blue, because that's where your throat is. Center graph line interference location all setting. We'll go into this line communication. All right, see the blue around it? Now, in that line communication system, the line calculations all levels, the ground lines, the rotations of the surface, in line calculation opens up signals. Now, setting line interference comes into 3 measure calculation streams and set locations of 3 settings. Okay? Setting communication, this is your throat in set location. That's your throat right there. All right? Now, the direction of time sequence is understanding the solar panels. Everything that foundation is 12 set locations. And 3 lines and set locations into 4 set line calculations into your throw pattern. Setting communication to its pyramid set line calculation. Yes, your throat is connected to center. This is positioned to a pyramid. If you look really close, you can see it. You can see the pyramid setting. Okay, so graph line settings and line interference line calculation line position locations opens up channels. Direction of time sequence comes into this line calculations. All right. This is what it comes into form. So for graph line settings, so we platitude line interference, we take the 0 lines. Let's put it black setting so you can actually see the number sequence location patterns. Let's go through that coloration line setting, change position. Okay, so 0 line, platitudes and line communication. It has to have a platitude location. Now that platitude line interference changed line communication. So if it's vortexing, it's going to vortex through an open window. Okay, there's the open window set location, right? So as it crosses streams, it's going through a higher calculation setting. As it's going through a higher calculation, it's setting up another line circle in high set line connection system. Direction of time sequence changes line calculation of streams. Direction crosses signal locations in direct signals. Open up all levels of 0 operation to 1 line calculations in position location, future adaptation of all line calculation. Done by equation, right? Now it's complicated, right? But that's how your connection to your throat is set up. Just recognize the calculation, how to really understand the formation locations. So if you center your calculations and you don't understand your throat and you get up a security line, it's not ready in calculations. So it's kind of like getting in position locations to all levels. You have rocks in a stream, right? And here you pick up a rock that's a different color to everything else, right? It's going to disturb the channel. That's dark matter. It changes the frequencies, guys. Okay? So that's what it is. So you need a foundation of your graph lines of blue to understand the illumination line connections to its 0s and 1s. And once you understand the 0s and 1s, you work with security perimeters in set locations. So you can channel into a rainbow stream and have 12 signature line settings into 0 to 12 through your throat. But at the basic beginning, you have to start with the blue because it's connected to your throat set line communication, guys. So if you understand the 0 to 12, you understand how it works through its position. Okay? So getting in calculation line interference, you got 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1 satellite locations, right? So 2 lines separated position locations into pi. This is 3 set location, right? So 0, 1 is line calculated in set location. Now, that's in line communication into graph lines of 3 set locations. Now, changing line communication comes into the moon of 6 line communication. Now, getting into 1 line is line communication. You can add 1, 1, 1, 1 portal communications in 4 line sets. Setting communication line interference. Setting 0 line, you can travel 3 line setting location to graph line, stream location, and road graph location. So what you're doing is you're creating a bridge of set location. So this is about understanding what you can do with your throat. So your throat is like this, and you're here, and you're walking. Okay, you're walking. So every time you're walking, you're understanding more levels of your throat setting. Okay, this is you walking. Okay, so imagine that you're walking through the number sequence. So you got lines of 0s and crossing lines of 0s and 0 set locations, right? Crisscrossing lines of 0, 0, 0. So your voice is all calculated and modified through 0s and 1s in set locations, right? This is 0, this is 1, this is 0, this is 1, this is 0, 0, 0, this is 1, this is 0. Okay, that's where you guys are starting. So to really understand the inventory is understand the matrix location, how it comes into its stream. All communication line interference, track line connections all levels of 3, in position of 1, in position of 2, in position of 4. So getting calculation line interference is understanding how to go through graph line streams. Setting communication to the throat line crisscrosses line calculation to its V line, to its vector line, to its cross line signal, to 0 operation to 1 system. Setting calculation line interference is understanding, yes, Heather, pulsar sequences calculated, infused into modem through pattern generation line connection line system. Yeah, exactly. Setting calculation line interference. So every time you channel communication, so this is what it is, guys. Setting communications, all right? You're sending out voice lines, right? All right, so every time you speak, right, you're sending waves. Okay, waves are coming out, right? All right, so this is you, the set locations, right? So every time you're speaking a set line calculation setting, it's changing the graph lines of zeros and ones in set locations. Your tones, right? So in that position line connection system, the zero lines go into all calculations of the sun and direct signal to the moon in operation. Center direct signals in set location. See? That's how it works. So your sun is the lights of illumination graphs. That indicates this line calculation is a pulsar. The compulsory set lines of communication light setting is putting higher calculation system to its track setting. Rotation, surface location, position location, operation. Setting direct signals is really understand how to use it through your throat. All right, so you have to really understand how to use your zeros and ones in track location. Okay, now it's extremely complicated, right? But complicated is good. Simplicity is truly understand that you actually see the numbers coming out. And when they come out, what happens? They go to a certain direction, right? So they surface to your tone. And wherever they are, they go to that location right away because it's metal. So when it comes out, it spurts. And when it spurts, it goes in a certain direction. The set locations, one here, and one here set locations of zeros and ones. Okay? So it's really interesting to look at the connections of the metabolical line calculations to its metatronic cube line. That sets line communication line interference. Yes, you have a metatronic cube line in your throat. Okay? That's in your throat setting right here. Into your pyramid set location. Into your clustrum, your throat setting. See? It's all set up. So every time you set a line communication, your zero lines, you have zeros and ones into your binary. That's in position of triangulation line setting. That opens up signals 0, 0, 0 in graph lines. So 0 goes up here, 0 goes up here, 0 goes up here, right? Setting communication. Every time you change a tone, it sets lines of 0, 0, 0, 1 over here in set locations, and downshift line over here in set locations. That's 3 set location line settings of 1 billion zeros and ones going into that direction locations through manifestation of abundance. Okay, so if I get a bunch of metal balls, and I throw it up, and there's a metal plate, okay, there's a metal plate behind me against a wall, it's a mural, and I throw it up, it's going to throw it in its direction to where it needs to go because you're connecting to your thoughts, right? And those thoughts are going through your placebo to the cerebro, going to the connection setting, your throat rectus in time, in space and time line calculation line position. So you throw it up and it goes to its place. Okay? So it doesn't go anywhere in that set location. It goes everywhere, but it only goes in a certain position of what you're doing through your thought recognition of image. So whatever your image is, it goes through its metal face line connection. All right? The set of communication lines have 2 panels. Okay? Set locations, right? That's a metal plate. So basically what it is, and this is you, right? So this is you in position, right? Calculation, this is your voice. So all lines of zeros are going in this position in set locations. It doesn't go here because it's your intention in your brain. So your brain is only on the left line setting. It's not on the right line position. Getting correlations of balance is trying to send the left and right to the center calculation system. So really understand that when you're sending up letters and numbers and shapes and symbols, what you're doing is you're setting up an energetic graph line of an image to set location to its set line position, right? So once you understand that, then you understand what it's doing because it goes to its planets of its solar system locations. Here's your voice again. This is you speaking out, okay? So one here, and one here, and one here, right? That's where it goes. So it doesn't go everywhere. It doesn't scatter. It only goes to certain locations. So you got a handful of metal marbles in one place, and another place, and another place, and another place, because you have 4 thoughts that travel through your mind in its image, of its imagination, of its phenomenon. Okay? So now you understand why you are in that position location, to how to use your thoughts of recognition of space and time. Okay? That's the importance you have to understand, because not everything goes all over the place. It only goes in certain locations of what your intention is. Specifications, detail, people. If you want something to travel to that certain locations, you have to be in specific detail, right down to the grains of sand. Okay? All right, so that's what happens with your throat setting. Okay? So in that line communication system, you got 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, one line setting locations over there. You got 0, 0, 0 line position location over here. And you got 0, 0 line communication over there in line communication, right? That's how it works. So you can have a 1 billion line setting in position locations of thoughts, because you're traveling so fast. It's incredible how you go through capacity. Now, understanding the capacity is understanding the acceleration, understanding light speed. So you have to really understand what you're doing is putting blocks of zeros in set locations in line calculation setting. All right, that's how it's all set up location. That's one graph of thought traveling through your set communication. Here's another thought communication into a block line is zeros and ones locations. Here's another line communication. So it's 3 sets, only set up for 3 sets. These are block line centers in set locations, right? And this is you in center communication. Hoo-ah! So that's 3 patterns, 1, 2, 3. All right. So in set locations, that's 1 word into 2 words into 3 words into 1 frame of 1 sentence to 1 story. So all of these position locations communicate with each other first. Once they communicate with each other, they come together in a position location of direction. Now, once they come into the directions, they travel through the set line communication. Hoo-ah! All right. So this is way beyond recognition locations. I want you to understand, every time you open up your throat, you open up the calculations to your thoughts, it's traveling to certain locations through zeros and ones. Okay? That's where you guys are. Until you understand that, then you can get into zeros and ones and twos. You have to get 12 line signals of letters, 12 line signals of shapes, okay? Symbols, okay? It's set locations. All right? Letters, numbers, shapes, and symbols. That's all you got to do in creation. Once you get in that panels, it comes into this line connection. Lines of levels, setting direct signals into symbol, calculation line, position location line settings, in percentage location of question mark into all set line calculations, into 2 weather and pattern communication. Okay, so that's what you're doing, is you're trying to create graph line screens in 3 set location. All right. So it's all about understanding that they change their own geometric operation of design. Okay. So the V line is now the S. The S is the L. The L is the Fibonacci. Fibonacci the percentage. Percentage is now the line consists of question mark. Question mark is the pyramid. The pyramid is a line signal into 2 weather patterns communication. All through calculations of S. Okay. So if you understand that, once you understand that, then you understand the matrix string locations. You got a 7, you got a 6, you got a circle line communications, percentage. So it's really interesting when you look at locations of patterns and high calculation. 1 line setting, flash drive communications. You know, you can have calculations of Venn lines. So you can have 1 position of J line. It's all calculated and modified to Q line rotations into diamond setting. You're using letters, numbers, and shapes in the graph line screens. 1 position, 1. You can add a line of 0. You can add lines of 6, 6, in position of 2, in position of 3, calculations to a setting. Okay? So it's all about understanding and breaking it down, how to communicate to 4 weighted cycles. All right? So everything line communications of 3, 6 position location I setting to a Stargate. Okay, start with that location. 6 lines of another Stargate. So if you want to communicate with those 2 Stargates, you put them together. Setting communication of 2, which is 2 line setting, inline communication. Setting communication of 3 is a triangulation line setting. So that triangle can communicate that line interference. In set location I setting, that triangle can communicate with 1 now, right? So that 1 can communicate with a question mark can communicate with a 7 can communicate with a Fibonacci can communicate with the 1, communicate with the 4, communicate with the J, 3 weather patterns, communicate with the 1, communicate with the 0, communicate with the quantum, communicate with its triangle location setting. Okay? All through a 4-graph string. So you really have to understand how this all works through frame, creating algorithms, programs, computer operation settings. It's all direct signal location. Okay? So now you understand the importance that things that come out of your mouth, it goes into certain locations. Because everything is metal interface. Your planets are connected to energy. It's connected to a vibration. It's connected to a frequency. Okay, so it's one magnet to another magnet with a piece of paper in the center. What happens? Travels in the same direction. But you got the piece of paper, right? That holds the communication, right? If you don't have that piece of paper, they stick together. Okay? Physics 101. So, download I had, we can use them when you're clock. Yeah, but I really want you to understand how this works now. Purification location, that everything is your intention and what comes out of your throat, right? Wind, air, fire, okay? Understanding the grounds, understanding the earth, right? It's all modified instead of location setting. So everything that you see through perimeters and parameters line calculation, it gets a lot more tricky now because you're adding 0s and 1s and 2s. So all you're doing is you're creating a matrix anomaly and set lines of structure location to its algorithm to computer operation of a screen. That's all you're doing, right? Setting 1 line as a triangle line into position of percentage. Very simple, right? But see, that's not percentage, is it? You think it is. So this is 2 atoms in set locations into a line setting. Setting travels in communication to its vortex chamber. There's the intelligence. See? Intelligence. See the I lines? See? I took the percentage and turned it into intelligent location in the I setting through 2 atom line rotation. You guys got to go beyond the minds. Really understand the percentage is not a percentage. It can be the percentage, but the percentage turned into its intelligence. Multi-pass. Same with the triangle. Triangle connection line, center line interference. There's the triangle communication. Ooh, it's in the center. And you use the 1, you set position the 1 into the ground setting. There's the throat and set locations. Done by equation. All through 1, triangle, and percentage locations. Turning it into its intelligence. Hooah! Okay? Really understand how to use it in graph line screens and set locations high setting, because now you guys are coming to theta lines of 7, 7. 7 line signals, 7 position locations, all set line conditions. 7 direct signals and set location of travel. Does that look like 7 anymore? No, right? It's traveling. It's traveling. See? See? It's a hologram. Multi-pass. So you have to really understand that everything travels. We all understand that mind line setting, but your set position locations is no longer a 7th position, is it? Is it? So you're adding connections of triangles, applications of travel, right? So you got to go beyond, and the levels of the imagination is amazing. So once you come into 0, 1s and you add a 2, the 0 and the 1 are communicating with each other. Now the 2 is off the side in set locations because it's not ready to come into position. Once it comes into position location, the 0 and the 1 communicate with the 2 set locations, and then it comes into 0, 1, 2 set location. right? And once you get in that calculation, you come into line conditions of 0, 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 5, right? But you start with the zeros and 1 first. They need to get comfortable with you as you get comfortable with them. And what you understand, once you get the numbers of 12, then you get into letters, shapes, and symbols. All 12 set line calculation setting. Okay? One step at a time through 0 and 1 line calculation. All right, so now you understand that your throat pattern is now set up, okay, into 76 line communication. Okay, in line conditions equal lines of 38 in phenomenal locations. Fibonacci to infinity cycle in 7 locations. Multipass. All right. I know there's a lot of calculation streamlines, right? In direction of time sequence. So, yeah, you might have to watch this video again. It's very powerful. But I'm just showing you what happens when you integrate your voice and you put out words. It goes into certain locations. Because you're looking at a laser that's nothing but a metal face line setting. Okay, it's electricity, it's electronic, it's magnetic, right? So you're magnetic, so is everything else. So you put in a magnet to a piece of paper to another magnet. Balance and position locations of left and right to its yin and yang. All right. Taking out equations, bring back the team. There you go. You guys are back and set location line settings. All right. I think we'll stop there. Now you understand a little bit more what the throat is and what it can do in the mind of travel and where it goes in set locations. All right. So in position locations, you guys have a test review and evaluations on the moon, obviously. We'll get more into that as a Monday comes in set locations. All right. Adios.